Hello, welcome to Straight Painting. I'm your host Zach, and I'm officially inviting you on my journey of learning to paint using Magic the Gathering cards. Together, let's learn from my mistakes. Alright, welcome back and thank you for joining me. This week we're going to be attempting a borderless altar of a Myriad landscape. I've chosen the updated art version by Jonas Duro because it is perfect for my Omnath deck. The visual of a volcano erupting into existence just feels right for the Locus of Rage. Before we begin, here's a list of all the supplies I'll be using, and my paint selection this week will be our mainstays of white, burnt sienna, and black, to which we'll be adding ultramarine and primary yellow for the sky, and pyrrole red, or any red you have, for the lava eruption. So now we've got our supplies together and we're ready to start painting. Step 1, let's tape this card down onto some cardstock and start mixing our paints. I'm going to start with a base layer of light gray on the edges. This is going to give the acrylic paint something to adhere to when I apply further layers. After that, we're going to start color blocking in the different sections that we want to paint. So I'm mixing a very dark gray for the foreground rocks. I've mixed a darker ultramarine for the upper portions of the sky and also the water on the right hand side. And I've mixed sort of a tannish green for the upper right hand corner where the sky is very bright. That's a color that I'm not super happy about, but I'm working on getting better at color matching, and so I'm going to paint over it multiple times throughout this video. And that's one of the best things about learning to paint, is that you can just paint over anything that you view as a mistake. Now I want to take a quick moment and just shout out the cardboard trick, which is something that I learned from watching Polka Fairy Rose's channel. She has a beautiful art channel dedicated to painting basic land cards, and she often extends the borders not just around the edges of the card, but even into the text box. And I highly recommend her channel if you want to watch some beautiful painting time lapses, or if you want to learn more about painting cards. I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to check out her stuff. With the color blocking completed, I'm now going to let those sections dry before I apply any more paint. I'm going to use this time to start cleaning the pin lines for both the title bars and the text box, and this will help me with the final cleanup at the very end. At this point, I'm going to start creating depth in the piece by separating out the different layers of rock at the foreground here. I'm going to create a first layer, which is closest to us, out of a very dark bluish black. And I'm going to create the second layer in behind it out of a very dark reddish brownish black. This is going to help with the depth perception of the piece because items in nature that are closest to you tend to be darker, while items that are farthest away from you tend to be lighter, and you can see that in Jonas's actual painting itself. And this is just going to help the edges that I'm painting fit into the overall piece, as well as force your eye to continue further into the center of the giant exploding volcano. At this time, I'm trying to create the right color for the upper right-hand portion of this card, which is clouds that have light diffusing through them. I'm not quite able to get the color right throughout this card, and I'm not quite able to get the diffusing effect that I want of the clouds sort of dissipating into the atmosphere. And that's something that I'll need to work on. But it is something that I want to highlight about just the process of painting. And it's my favorite part about the process of painting as well, is that you have the freedom to go back to a section that you're not happy with and to redo it as many times as you want. If you're not happy with how something looks, you can just paint over it. Or you can leave it as a happy accident, as Bob Ross might call it. And I'm going to leave that section as a happy accident for now. It is something that I do try to change the color a few times. I do try to use my finger to try and dab some of the paint off to create that diffusing effect, a dissipating effect of the clouds disappearing into the sky. However, I'm just not able to nail it at this point. Overall, I'm not going to let it detract from my feelings about the piece, but it's just something that I want you to know, is that you can always go back and paint over anything that you're not happy with. Alright, we've now got a completed card, and it is ready to be sleeved up and put into my Omnath deck. We also have a couple of important takeaways this week. The first one is to remember that you shouldn't be afraid of any mistakes you make while painting. You have the power on this canvas to make whatever you want. You can paint over sections you don't like, and if you're painting on a card, you can take a toothpick or a brush and some water and wipe the paint off entirely and start all over again from the beginning. It's up to you. You hold the power to make the decisions for what you want to see on the card. The second takeaway is to remember that the effort you put in is more important than the perfection you achieve. And that's to say that the more you try, the better you'll get. You just have to try. I had a lot of fun with this project this week because it's the first time that I felt like I actually knew what I was doing while painting. I hope that you've learned something as well in this process, and I will see you in 2 weeks' time, hopefully, for another card painting project. Until then, take care. Peace.